All right, so today I want to talk to you about a cool tool that I've written that you can use today for free in your web browser. It's a website that I've written. The website is very simple. You go there, you drag in a YouTube link, you click a button, and it generates a whole bunch of images for you that you could use on your social media. Basically, it's a tool that I wanted for myself, and I've been using it for a bunch of my videos, and I realized that this could be useful to other creators or aspiring creators or just people for who knows what reason. So I figured I would share it with you today and kind of deep dive into the code. So I won't waste your time. Let's jump right into it. So here's the website right here. It's super simple. As you can see, thumbnail.ysap.sh. That's the URL. I'll have it linked below. Basically, you go here and it just gives you a nice little text box and it gives you a button. That's it. It is super simple. So what you do is you drag in a YouTube video URL. So let's go over to YouTube here. As you can see, we're on my own channel. Look at that, 85,000 subscribers at the time of this video. If you're watching right now, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Let's get that number up to 100,000, okay? That's it. That's the only time I'm gonna ask you. So let's scroll down here. Let's grab any random video. Doesn't matter what video it is, any video at all. How about this? How about my complete bash scripting course, my 7-hour video? Right click, let's hit copy link. And now it's on my clipboard. I go over here, I paste it in, and I click generate images, or I hit enter on my keyboard. And there you go. It generates these images for you. Very, very simple images. It generates 4 right now. But as you can see, what are they? It's the thumbnail. It's this text here, full video on YouTube with a nice little red circle around it. It has the title. It has the author. It optionally has the actual link to the YouTube video itself. This is meant for people to share on their socials or put in a video. If you've ever seen my short form video content come up, you'll know that at the end, sometimes I'll say like, oh, this is actually an excerpt from like a larger video, and I'll have some sort of image like this. This is how I generated that image because I got sick of doing it by hand. I got tired of it. So yeah, this is a super simple thing. If you're like, oh, you know what? I really like this image down here that's kind of blacked out and has the URL on top of it. Click it. And it's downloaded. It's as simple as that. It's downloaded and it gives you a nice little file name. It actually uses the YouTube ID as the first part of the file name so you can sort them easily, which is very nice. Now, of course, you could also, right click and you could actually save the image this way, save it to your downloads, whatever. You could drag the image out and store it on your desktop. I'm not sharing my desktop on this video, so you guys can't see it, but just trust me that it dragged nicely to my desktop, and I have not only the image, but the high quality image. It is a very high quality image. I just trashed the file and put it in my recycle bin. That's what you guys heard. So, like for instance, if I were to take, let's say, this one right here, I could go here and I could say, open image, a new tab. And here you go. Look at that, 1280 by 1450 pixels. So it is a large image. It is a good high quality image. We try to grab as big of a thumbnail as we possibly can. And if you look at the URL, look at this. You can see kind of behind the scenes what's going on here. It is a base 64 image. So the whole thing is rendered in JavaScript on your client. And then I'm displaying it to you this way. So basically under the hood, we're using an HTML5 canvas. We're drawing this entire image. We're showing it to you as a link that you can click, which will initiate a download. But even like, look at the bottom of the screen. I'm pointing to it like you guys can see it down there. You can see the base 64 image there. So if you're a content creator, feel free to use these images, whatever, and take a look at this down here. You can see that I actually link to the source code and I explain how it works. So I'll give you a quick rundown of that real quick. All of these images are rendered client side. They're rendered in your browser. That means all of the logic is in JavaScript and I have no server running on the back end. Yes, this is being served out of my own server, but no logic is being run on the back end. These are just static files. You could download this source code and run on your own server. In fact, you can. It's MIT licensed. I don't mind if you do that, if you didn't trust me for whatever reason. We are using a third-party service here. YouTube metadata is provided by no embed. So if you go here, light screen jump boarding, I already know. If you go here, you can see my face light up white. That's so funny. This website is super nice. You can go to noembed.com/embed, and then give it the URL query parameter of the URL encoded version of the YouTube video, blah, 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 blah. You do that, and then it gives you this JSON back, which is super nice. So I'm just using this service just to get metadata like the title, the author. I think we get like the thumbnail URL from it, things like that. Oh, look, the actual URL shows up here, which is kind of nice. I don't remember if we used that or not. I might actually just use the URL that the user gave us. We'll go have to look through the source code and see. So yeah, let's pull up some source code. Let's see what's going on here. So here's the source code, thumbnail.ysap.sh on my GitHub Bahamas. And I'll have this linked everywhere so you won't have to worry about it. Let's go here. Let's grab the source code here and let's pop open the terminal. All right, so we got my terminal. I'm in my development directory. Wow, it's very blurry. I just realized I'm not actually wearing my glasses. So let's go ahead and fire these on here. All right, let's do a git clone of this. We'll pull this down and then we'll have the source code. There we go. Let's go into thumbnail.ysap.sh. We don't have much here. So in fact, I'll go back and even just show you real quick. If you pull up the actual website and you scroll down, the README is very terse. I pretty much just link you right to the website, which you saw before. But let's go back to the terminal. and let's see what we have. We have our index.html, our main.js. Those are the two main files, really. The README is what you saw. There's not much going on there, as you can see there. We have a make file. Again, there's not much going on there. The make file pulls down the favicon, which will basically, I just steal it from my own website, so I just kind of share it. We have a make serve, which allows me to make changes locally and then use Python to serve it on port 8000 so I can do development work when I'm working on it. And then we have make deploy, which will actually synchronize these files up to my web server. Now notice that I just have web here. That's because I have my own alias in my SSH config, which is pointing to my own web server. I don't feel like sharing that with the world, but if you have your own setup and you want to name your thing web, hey, this will just work for you. Otherwise, look, we just send over the main JS file, the index, the style, and the favicon. So yeah, that's pretty much what we have. The style.css is a very, very boring CSS file. I'm not going to go through this. There's really not much styling going on. The main thing I want to focus on is the index.html and the main.js. So if we look at the index. I don't actually like that syntax file. Let's pull this open. There we go. This looks better to me. Generate social media images for YouTube videos created by me. Contributors are me. And let's go down a little bit. As you can see from the website, we have just our generate images button, which calls generate. And we have our download all button, which actually downloads them. Oh, I don't know if I actually showed you guys this. This is going to be weirdly out of order. If we go here, paste the bash course in, generate the images, you can actually click, oh, I just clicked one. You can click download all and it will download all four of them. I'm realizing now there was a nice animation on my screen on 4 things being downloaded. I don't think that showed up on the recording. So please just trust me that in my downloads directory that there are 4 files there. I don't know a better way to show you guys. Okay, I'll have to cut the video here. I can show you guys. Look at this. So if we ls my downloads directory and we grep for this is just the first 4 characters of the YouTube ID for that video. We have 4 images, the basic image, the blurred image, the full image, and the large image. So trust me that they downloaded, okay? They're actually here. And I named them this way so you can actually search through them easily and you can find them easily, which is super nice, super convenient. We'll talk about how all that's done. So there's not much else going on in the index.html file. We have the generate function, the download all function. I'll show you guys that. And then I don't think there's really nothing else here. I'm not going to waste time on that. Let's go into the JavaScript file because this is where the main bulk of the work happens. I'm going to warn you right now. I am not a JavaScript developer. I did a lot of JavaScript for a previous job. This was in 2015-ish. This is over 10 years ago now. So the JavaScript that I do know is pretty outdated. In my mind, I'm still blown away that there's like the let and the const keyword, okay? So when I want to loop over like a hash map, I instantly think of object.keys, or when I want to loop over an object. Again, I'm not a JavaScript developer. That's my fair warning. This is not going to be the best code. It's not going to be AI generated code. I did all this by hand, but it's not going to be the best code. I can just promise that it works. And if you find a bug or something, pull request welcome. So the first thing we do is we have these 2 global variables that we keep track of, which is the last video ID and the font. Now the font is hard-coded to Arial. You could change this to whatever you want. I don't expose this to the user over the website. That would be very nice. It'd be awesome to have a drop-down list of fonts and maybe not have to re-pull the metadata, just regenerate the images if the user changes the font. Hey, again, pull request welcome. I don't have that currently. And the last video ID, this we just keep track of what video the user generated. So when it comes time to download the files, we have that video ID saved. We could probably just store all of the metadata. Hindsight's 2020. That would probably be better to do it that way. Either way, let's keep going. This one right here, we grab the URL input. This is the text input that the user can type the URL into. We added this thing where we allow it to press enter. We allow the user to press enter basically because I got sick of putting the URL in there, hitting enter, nothing would happen. Then I have to go click generate images. That was really stupid. So I put a whole event listener on every single key press, but only on the enter key press do we prevent the default behavior, which is some JavaScriptism that I don't really fully understand. I think we prevent this event from bubbling up to any other listeners. I think that's what it does. And then we call the generate function, which is the same as if the person pressed the generate button. So that's what's going on there. We have this little fatal function. I love this function. I wrote it myself. Look at that. I'm very proud of it. We alert to the user an error. We print it to the console as an error, and then we rethrow the error. Well, don't rethrow. We throw the error, so then it stops execution here. I use this function in multiple places where I'm like, hey, there's nothing I can do. I want to alert the user that we tried our best, but there's nothing we can do. We have some helper functions up here. Let's not worry about the helper functions yet. Let's go down to the generate function because this is the one that's going to do the bulk of the heavy lifting here. The generate button, this is where the user presses generate. So let's see what actually happens. Well, we get the output, which is just where we will store the output images. It's just a div. And then we grab the data from the user. So we get the URL. This is the thing in the text input field. We get the text input field here. We get the value of it, and then we trim any sort of excess white space. And the first thing we do is we extract the video ID from the URL. And then we do some nice error checking, like, hey, if there's no video ID here, we give an alert, and then we go back to the user. Notice that we don't call fatal here. I don't want to throw an error message. I don't want JavaScript to break. I just want to alert the user, hey, it didn't work, but you can try again. You could give us a new URL, and it might be valid. So we call get YouTube ID of a URL, and we do a couple different things here. So there's two different type of YouTube URLs you could get. You get the youtube.com one, which has a V parameter, or you get the utu.be URL, in which case we grab the path name and we slice the first one off of it. So this is really cool. I love that, the browsers have this URL object built in so we can actually parse the URL properly. And then if we can't get either of those, then we call fatal there. Oh wait, should we call fatal here? Shouldn't we just return an error object? Does JavaScript have this, or is that just a nodism? I'd want to just return an error because we check it below. Or we return null. Do we want a fatal, or do we want to return an error? Wow, it's been so long since I've done JavaScript, and I know there's try catch and there's also returning errors. I've been in the Node.js world where you have like callback stuff. Maybe this is, I don't know. I give up. Whatever, we call fatal. If it doesn't work, that's what I know. So the benefit of this is that we can take URLs in two different types of formats. So if you give it the utu.be format or the youtube.com format, we support it and it works. That's great. So then let's go down here. We check this, which may or may not even be necessary with that call to fatal. I'd have to double check that. Then we use that no embed thing. Remember I told you guys about that? We do noembed.com/embed URL equals, and then we encode the entire URL. This is what you're supposed to do. This is how their API works. We fetch it, we turn it into JSON, and then we call process on it. If any part of that fails, we just call fatal with the error message. We give it to the user. That's our best effort there. So we call this function called process, which I've defined down here. Process takes two things, the data and the video ID. So the data is what was returned to us from no embed, and the video ID is the ID portion of the video that we've extracted. So we're going to use that information probably later. We do some basic sanity checking here, like, hey, we need a title, an author name, and a URL to continue. Like, I don't know what kind of object you gave us. We didn't do any sort of like specification against that. We didn't do any sort of validation. This is our validation. We're looking for those three properties, and if they're there, we call it good enough. We go down here, we make a new image, we turn the video ID into a thumbnail, and we set that as the source. So let's go up here to that function. This function is very simple. We take the video ID and we just embed it in here. So this URL will turn into the high quality thumbnail for the YouTube thumbnail. I don't know how stable this API is. I think it's been around forever, and I don't anticipate YouTube changing it anytime soon, but it could potentially break. But basically what we're doing is we're taking the video ID, we're hitting YouTube servers, and we're getting the YouTube thumbnail for that video ID. Max res default, so we're getting as big of the thumbnail as we possibly can. So that's great. And then we set up our little handlers here. So if there's an error, then we call alert here. Why don't we call fatal? I don't know. Maybe I'm being inconsistent. Man, this code is just garbage. All right, let's go here. We have on load. When it's loaded, we store the last video ID so we can keep track of that last video ID. So that's our global variable. And then we call draw images. So this will draw all 4 images. And then the last thing we do is we turn the download button on. So the download button isn't there by default, but once we load a single image, then we can put the download button back on. So we set it to inline block. Is there a visibility property? That might be better. Instead of the code having to be aware if it's inline or block or inline block, maybe there's like a visibility thing. Whew, man, if anyone in the comments knows, help me out here. Also, pull request welcome, because like I said, this code isn't great, but it does what I need it to do. Also, hopefully I can show you guys that, hey, I know Bash really well. I'm human, but I don't know JavaScript very well. So if you ever feel like an imposter watching me, hopefully this will help you realize that, no, come back down to earth. I'm not that great. So we call draw images. We call it with the image, which is our thumbnail, the data, which is the data from no embed, and the video ID. So let's go down to draw images. So draw images, the first thing it does is it clears out any existing images from the output, and all we do is we set inner HTML to nothing. This means if I go to the website, I generate for video 1, and then I want to generate a second video, the first thing we should do is we should delete any of the pre-existing thumbnails that were generated so we can make room for the 4 new ones that we're going to make. We print the data to the console because, hey, I like having the data there. At least we can see something. The user would never see it. That's just going to the actual developer console. Then we have our 4 functions here. I put them in an array. So draw basic image, draw large image, draw full image, and draw blurred image. If we go back to the website, we have draw basic image, which is here. We have draw large image, which is here. We have draw full image, which is here, and draw blurred image. I'm on Safari. It doesn't currently blur, but if you're on like Firefox or Chrome, you will actually get a nice Gaussian blur. I'm not sure why that's not supported, but at least it dims it out. That's kind of nice. We go here, we loop over the functions. So we loop over all 4 of these functions and we call each function with the output, which is where we want to write the image data to, the thumbnail, the no embed data, and the video ID. As you can see, we keep tacking on new pieces of objects to these functions. So here we go. Here are our image drawing functions. Finally. They're a little bit out of order, so let's start with the first one, draw basic image. So here you go. Here is how we draw the basic image. We create a new canvas element. We don't actually put it on the screen, but we create the canvas element, so we have it here. We set the width to 1280 and the height to 900. These were just arbitrary. I decided that that would look good. So 1200 or 1280 by 900. You get this image right here, which is 1280 by 900. 1280 because I think it's like, what, 720p uses 1280. There was a reason for it. Maybe I should put a comment here and explain it, but you know, here we are. We get the drawing context for the canvas. If you've ever done HTML5 canvas work, you know that this is very, very simple syntax. You'll see this pretty much everywhere. Then we extract the title and the author from the data that we were given from no embed, and then we do a bunch of work here. So the first thing we do is we clear the entire rectangle. The canvas, we just completely clear it. This might be redundant. I don't know if you have to do this when you create a new drawing context, but it's probably just good practice. Clear everything completely. Then we set the fill style to 222, the number 222, which is just very, very dark gray. And we draw dark gray on top of the whole thing. And then we draw the original thumbnail on top of the image. Now notice this. We start at X equals 0. We start at Y equals 0. We draw the thumbnail for 1280 and we draw it for 720 height. 1280 width, 720 height. So that means we fill the entire canvas with 222, with gray. And then we draw the thumbnail at the top of the canvas. So as you can see right here, look at this image on the left. This is the one I'm looking at. You can see that this gray color behind the text, that gray color was drawn on the entire thing, and then the thumbnail was superimposed on top of it. So that means this text is going to be superimposed on top of it. Let's get to that. So we go down here, let's write the title. We set the color of the title to be EEE. That's basically white, but just ever so slightly gray, just not fully white. 56 pixels, and then the font that we're using, remember we set the font to Arial above. I have this variable called padding that we use. This is how much it'll be padded from the left, but we have to use that variable in a couple different places. Then we do some magic here. We figure out how many lines this text will take if we wrap the text. Because remember, we have a long string of the title, but if we go here, we notice that it wraps. So we have to manually wrap the text. We have to run it through a function that will figure out if we were to draw this text, how many new lines would we need? How much do we actually have to wrap the text? So that's what this function wrap text does. So here you go, here's the wrap text function. We take the drawing context, the text that we want to wrap, and then the max width. So if we go back down to where we were, this is not the right one. Where's the basic image? Are we in basic image here? We are, okay, sorry. The wrap text gets called a bunch of places. We take the context, the title, and then we calculate, this is the max width. So this was 1280, this was the width of the canvas. Why I don't use canvas.width? Man, I am just a bad programmer. The width of the canvas minus the padding times 2. So we wanted to be padded 20 from the left and padding 20 from the right. So 40, so 1280 minus 40 right there. That's how we do it. So we call wrap text. That's not what I wanted. So we split the text into words. To do that, we use space character as like our word boundary. So basically we're going to wrap based on space characters. And then we have an array called lines. This is how many lines, or actually this will be the line itself. So we'll have an array of strings that we have to draw to the image at the end of this. So this will actually wrap the text for us. So what we do here is we make a new thing called line, a new string. It's an empty string, and we're basically going to append to line until we can't append to it anymore, until we've hit the limit. Then we'll create a new line until we filled it up with enough text. Then we'll create a new line. Hopefully that makes sense. So we loop over all the words here, for word in word. Then we check the line. So we're going to test it first. We're going to take the line. We're going to add the new word to it with a space at the end of it. And then we're going to use this measure text function. It's built into the drawing context. It's super useful. We construct what a new line would be with the new word attached to it. And we check to see if the width is greater than the max width. If it is, that line has failed the test. So now we push that line, the old line, before we've done the test, we push the old line onto the array, and then we create a new line with just the new word. If it fails the test, we push it onto the array and we create a new line. If it passed the test, meaning there is enough room to store that, then we just set the line equal to that new thing that we tested, which was the new line. And then if there's anything left over, if this buffer's full at the end of it, then we just append the final thing to it. So hopefully that makes sense. That's what allows us to wrap the text. I know I kind of rapid fired that, but if we give it a long string, we can figure out, oh, this will be an array of 2 strings. The first string will be the complete bash scripting course -full. And the second element of the array will be length guide to learning the bash shell. There you go. That's how it'll work. So back down here, the last thing we have is to write the author. So we write the author as a slightly darker white color. It's still white, but it's gonna be like a little bit like gray-ish. Smaller font, 28 pixels, and then we'll say YouTube : the name of the author. We'll put the padding here, so we'll start that much from the X, which is exactly the same as the title starts from. We'll start drawing it at 790 plus the length of how many lines we've written, multiplied by 58, minus 20. There's a lot of weird math here. I'm not going to go into it. It's a lot of hard coding stuff. But basically, we move 790 pixels down, and then we figure out, okay, how many lines were drawn for the title? And we want to jump over that. So let's assume each line that we drew for the title is 58 pixels long. So if there's 2 lines, then it's 58 times 2, 116, 116. And then the minus 20 is, I think I got lazy and I just wanted to move it up slightly. I should probably figure this out. I should really do a better job commenting this stuff. But yeah, so basically this is where we get this little thing. It's really small. Hopefully you can see it, but that's where the author name shows up there. It says YouTube : you suck at programming. Oh wait, I can just open image in new tab. So there you go. Wow, that's a huge image. Okay. Yeah, so you can see YouTube : you suck at programming. It's a slightly grayer color, but it has the exact 20 pixel padding from the left-hand side. So that's what's going on there. All right, so finally, the last thing we do here is we create this new variable called a, and we set it equal to base64 image. And here we give it 2 arguments. We give it the video ID -basic image.jpg. This is what the file name will be. If you remember when I showed my download directory, that was one of the names of the files. And then the canvas object itself is the second argument. And then the last thing we do is we append that a, whatever that a is, to the output. So the output is an HTML element. We append whatever a is. So let's go figure that out. Base64 img as a function. Let's go figure out where that's defined. Here it is. So it takes a name and a canvas. Remember, we wrote all that data to the canvas, so the canvas has the image data in it. In fact, the first thing we do is we extract it. We get the image data out of the canvas to data URL image/JPEG. This is what gives us that base64 representation of the image. We have the image data stored in a variable called data. That's useful. So now let's create a new a element. Let's set the download property equal to the name and the hyperreference equal to the data. So what this means is it creates an element like this. A equals ref equals whatever's in data and download equals whatever's in name. That's what it has created for us. Now we haven't given it anything else, so it's just sort of like this. This is what it looks like. Now down here, we create a new image and we have the source and we give it a class called generator. This is just part of my CSS styling. So there's nothing special about that class. That's just something I added in CSS. So this creates something like this. img source equals data and then class equals generated. There we go. Oh, is that old? Am I going to get yelled at in the comments for this? Is it like that? I don't even know if you need to have like self-closing XML tags anymore. I don't think HTML has been XML for a long time. I think I'm just old. And then the A appends the out. That might be a little bit confusing for you, but what that means is at the bottom here, after this has ran, it will now look like this. Let me do this. That's what it looks like. So at the end of this, once this gets called, then that A tag now contains the image. So we've created this and we return this. So we return a link where the link is to the data of the image itself with the download attribute. So when you click it, it downloads it with the name of whatever's set here. So when I click that link, I will get that image with this name. And what is being shown, what the clickable thing is the image itself with the source specified to that. So when I go over here, I can see it, okay, I have this image right here, but notice that my cursor is a pointer. I can click on it. If I click on it, it will initiate a download with that file name. I can show that, actually, if I do an inspect element on here, you can see that. Let me scroll up a little bit here. Hopefully this is a little bit easy to see. There's a lot going on here. We have our output div here, which has all 4 images. This image has that A tag with the download set to that file name I was talking about. The hyperreference is set to all that image data, and inside it is the image itself, and then the A tag closes. So it's exactly what I described on the terminal. right here. This is exactly what it looks like once it's done. So you have that down here. We set the A equals that, and then we append it to the output, and that's it. We're done. So if we go back to our draw, what is it? Draw images function? I don't remember what I called it. Draw images. There we go. We have our 4 functions here: our draw basic image, our large image, our full image, our blurred image. They all do largely the same thing. They construct an image on a canvas, they convert it to base 64, and then we just append it to the output. And that's it. That's all that's really done here. I'm not going to dive into the other 4 functions too deeply. They're pretty simple, and I bet you could figure them out. Maybe I'll talk about this one. We'll talk about the blur one, because as you can see, it's the thumbnail, but it's a little bit grayed out. There is a blur in it, and the text is just right on top of it with that short URL. So if we pull back up the source code, we can see draw blurred image. We make a 1280 by 720 image. We do this right here was RGBA. This alpha is set to 1.0, so it doesn't actually affect anything. RGB000, that means black with an alpha of 1, so it's a fully opaque black color that we fill the entire thing, and we fill it completely with black. Then we set a new filter with a 10 pixel blur. May not work on all browsers, sadly. I even noted that here. We draw the thumbnail to it, and then we reset the filter. So we drew the thumbnail to the image. Now, we didn't put any sort of black on it. We just put a filter of blurring on it. We didn't actually black it out. So what we do here is we overlay a dark color on top of the thumbnail. So what you're looking at right here, if you're like, oh, that thumbnail was drawn, but with opacity, it's actually the opposite. We drew the thumbnail completely, and then we put a black rectangle on top of it and set the opacity to that. I don't know if it actually mattered that we did it that way, but that's just how I opted to do it. So we overlay the dark color on top to darken the thumbnail. 0, 0, 0, RGB of 0. So that is black with a 0.5. So that's just a 50% opacity black on top of the thumbnail. And then once we have that, we draw the text in the center of the URL text, and then we do all the save logic. So as you can see, the thing right here is the short URL function. We take the video ID, and then we convert that to a short URL. And the short URL just looks good. It allows us to make the text very large, which is nice. If it was a full YouTube link, it would just be a lot of text. It'd be a lot being thrown at you. But if you have this, it's not the end of the world. And a lot of computers have like OCR. So even my computer's like doing this and letting me copy and paste it, which is super nice. Yeah, so that's it. It's not super complex. Like I said, there's definitely some issues and some not so great code. So I totally pull request welcome. If you want to work on this and hack on it, feel free. If you want to host on your own servers, go for it. If you're like Dave, I could think of some cool other styles. Maybe have more than 4 things. Maybe I have like a 5th cool style for social media. Pull request welcome, man. If you have like a cool idea or you just want to hack on it for fun, do it. I totally welcome it. I think it'd be super fun. That's pretty much it for that. Like I said, very simple project. It's free. It's available for anyone to go use. If you're a content creator, aspiring content creator, or you just want to use it for whatever, feel free to go take a look at the code. And of course, I can't end the video without giving a shout out to my patrons over at Patreon. Thank you so much for your continued support. You guys are awesome. Take a look at this. 97 active members. 97 active members at the time of this recording. Thank you so much. You guys are giving me money. That's crazy. Okay. I know I went into like my announcer voice, like, oh my God, can you guys believe that's crazy? It's just fun to slip into that voice. The truth is I'm genuinely blown away by the support. I appreciate it so much. When I made a Patreon, I had a goal in my head of hitting $50, and my stretch goal was $100 USD monthly, because I was like, there's no way I'll ever hit that. Like, I don't even know why I'm making a Patreon. This is stupid. 97 active members. If you go to my Patreon right now, I'm making almost $750 a month USD. Thank you so much, everybody. If that shocks you hearing that, because you're like, oh my God, he shares these kind of things. Yeah, I have a whole video on my channel where I talk about how much money I make as a creator. I try to be open about this stuff. That figure is totally open. If you go to my Patreon, you'll just see it. I don't hide that figure from people. I like to be, honest and upfront about it. And any support you guys give it's not expected, and it's always appreciated. So just thank you so much. This has been awesome. Yeah, just this content creation stuff has just been so much fun. I love doing it. I have so many ideas for new content in the future. So yeah, that's all I got. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one.